Have you ever had the strange feeling that something was wrong but couldn't explain what? As if your decisions weren't entirely yours. As if you were being guided by an invisible force. Perhaps you've done favors you didn't want to do, given in during arguments where you were clearly right, or trusted people who later showed a different face. If this has ever happened to you, and I know it has, then this video is for you. Because the brutal truth is, you are being manipulated every day by people close to you. Friends, colleagues, even family. And unless you learn to see through the illusion, you will continue to be a pawn on someone else's chessboard. But what if you could flip the board? What if you could become the kind of person who never gets manipulated? Ever again? Let me introduce you to someone who saw the world for what it really is. Not what we wish it to be. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli. He didn't sugarcoat the human condition. He didn't believe in fairy tales or moral ideals. He believed in power, in how it operates, in how it's seized, and in how it's maintained. And while most people quote Machiavelli with suspicion, the truth is, he understood the psychology of manipulation better than any modern-day therapist ever could. Not because he was cruel, but because he was honest. And if you truly want to escape manipulation, you need to understand the dark psychology of those who manipulate. And worse, those who manipulate you while smiling. The first truth Machiavelli teaches us is simple, but brutal. People are not loyal by nature. They are loyal when it benefits them. Think about that. All the relationships you believe are unconditional. How many of them would vanish if the benefits disappeared? Your boss, your partner, even your so-called friends. The illusion of loyalty is often a mask for dependency, convenience, or fear. Machiavelli said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose." Why? Because fear is consistent. Love is fragile. Manipulators know this instinctively. They know that love can be used as a chain, that kindness can be turned into a trap, and they know that if they can make you fear disapproval, rejection, or abandonment, they can control you without ever raising their voice. Have you noticed how manipulators never directly ask for power? They just make you feel guilty. They present themselves as victims. They ask for favors wrapped in emotional debt. You feel sorry for them. You feel obligated. You feel responsible for their happiness. And that's how they own you, emotionally. But Machiavelli would tell you, separate emotion from action. Feel empathy, yes, but do not let it control your decisions. The moment you feel guilt for putting up boundaries, manipulation has already started. A prince, as Machiavelli called the person in power, must learn to use emotion as a tool, but never become a slave to it. Here's a bitter pill. Good people are often the easiest to manipulate. Why? Because they believe others are like them. They assume sincerity. They give the benefit of the doubt. And worst of all, they hesitate to judge. But Machiavelli knew that the world is filled with masks. That people pretend to be virtuous to gain trust. And once they have it, they reshape your perception of reality. That's why he said appearances matter more than truth. In his words, everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. In a world of performance, the one who sees through the act becomes dangerous. So how do you stop being manipulated? First, understand this. Manipulation works by making you predictable. If you're always agreeable, always polite, always eager to please, then you are easy to control. A manipulator will test you. They'll start small, ask for minor things, see how far you bend, and once they know your patterns, they will push further, and cloak it in flattery or false urgency. Machiavelli would advise, become unpredictable. Be kind, yes, but let others feel a little uncertainty around your decisions. Let them know that your kindness is a choice, not a weakness. A calculated man, Machiavelli believed that mystery creates respect. The more people know about you, the more they can use it against you. Psychologically, this taps into what researchers now call the power of ambiguity. People fear what they cannot define. If you are always explaining yourself, always justifying, always oversharing, you give others the playbook to your mind. But if you learn to hold your thoughts, to let silence speak, to let people wonder, you take back control. You become unreadable. And the unreadable cannot be manipulated, only respected or feared. But let's go even deeper. Manipulation doesn't just happen in conversations. It happens in the systems we live in. It happens in workplaces, where fake teamwork is used to silence dissent. It happens in families, where obligation is used as emotional blackmail. It happens in relationships, where love is weaponized to suppress individuality. And the worst part? We participate in it because we're afraid to be alone, afraid to be disliked, afraid to be seen as selfish. But Machiavelli would say, better to be feared for who you are than loved for who you are not. There's a strange paradox here. We want to be free, but we also want to be accepted, and manipulators use that against us. They study your hunger for approval, your need to be liked. They make you dependent on their validation. They offer praise only when you comply, and the moment you challenge them, the praise turns cold. That's how they train you, like a dog learning tricks. You begin to associate obedience with safety, and that's how freedom dies. Not in chains, but in silence. Machiavelli was not cynical. He was realistic. He knew that those who win are not always the ones who are good, but the ones who are aware. Those who can play the game without forgetting it is a game. And that means knowing when to trust and when to test, when to give and when to guard, when to smile and when to walk away. So how do you become immune to manipulation? You start by abandoning the illusion that everyone has good intentions. You stop projecting your kindness onto others. You observe what people do, not what they say. You listen not to their words, but to their patterns. You realize that most manipulation begins with your own unwillingness to disappoint. And once you embrace discomfort, once you accept that you do not owe anyone obedience just because they are hurt or angry, you become free. One of Machiavelli's greatest lessons was that power isn't taken, it's surrendered. The people who manipulate you do so because on some level you let them. You give them access. You let them shape your guilt, your shame, your self-worth. But the moment you become conscious of that, the moment you decide to reclaim your agency, the game changes. The manipulator's power dissolves when you see it for what it is, an illusion that requires your belief to exist. So the next time someone makes you feel small for saying no, ask yourself, what do they gain if you say yes? The next time someone paints themselves as a victim to get your sympathy, ask, are they helpless or are they cunning? The next time you feel guilt for putting your needs first, remember, boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. You do not have to become ruthless to stop being manipulated. You have to become aware, strategic, less reactive, more observant. You have to be like Machiavelli, someone who doesn't worship morality, but understands human nature. Someone who doesn't expect virtue, but watches for behavior. Someone who doesn't trust blindly, but tests loyalty. And most of all, someone who remembers that power isn't about domination. It's about direction. It's about steering your life on your terms instead of being steered by someone else. So yes, people will try to control you. They will guilt you, flatter you, test you, and twist your words. But once you learn to see manipulation not as an attack, but as a pattern, you can choose not to play along. And that's the ultimate revenge. Not yelling, not fighting, just seeing through the illusion and walking away. Because the truth is, the strongest people are not the loudest. They are the ones who cannot be moved. Not by fear, not by guilt, not by praise. They are the ones who don't need to manipulate others, because they've already mastered themselves. And now, maybe, so have you.